Today we are talking crate training. Now, crate training is something that seems to spark a lot of debate in the dog world, but we're going to talk about how positive crate training can actually be a great thing for your oodle, how to do it, where to start, what you need, and all things crate and enrichment. So keep listening because you're going to love this one. Who's positively spoiled? If you have a spoiled oodle, just like me and many others, then you're listening to the right podcast. Positively Spoiled is a podcast focusing on helping you raise a happy and healthy oodle. Now, we know just how fussy, cute, loving, and sometimes challenging they can be, but hey, us two-leggeds can't resist a cute four-legged face. I'm Tanya, Chief Pawson, Pet Concierge and temporary parent to many small dogs that are part of the extended Oodle family here at 3 Spoilt Dogs. As a lifelong small dog owner and temporary parent to many other oodles and many small dogs, I have seen it all, and this podcast is here to help you raise the happiest and healthiest oodle that you can. And hey, we don't discriminate, so if you have any other breed of dog, you'll find the podcast relevant and helpful too. So pause up and let's get into today's episode. Hello, everybody. It's Tanya Williams here from 3 Spoilt Dogs and the host of the Positively Spoilt podcast. And we're back for another episode this week. And this week we're talking about something that can be sometimes controversial. I'm not quite sure why, but when you mention the word crate, some people get very upset or have very strong opinions about crates. But today we're going to be talking to Eliza Kennedy, who is the co-founder of the Paws Room. And these guys, if you have not seen their crates, are beyond, like, these are luxe, baby. They are beautifully designed crates that you want in your home because they look like furniture. That we'll get to that soon, but first we're going to talk about crate training. But before we get started, Eliza, do you just want to give people a brief intro about who you are, what you do, and how you started, how the Paws Room came about?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tanya. So I think probably not an unfamiliar story for a lot of founders. I think we came into this because we experienced the problem ourselves, and then realised that if we were having trouble, and in this instance it was finding a crate that didn't look like a cage and an eyesore in your living spaces, then probably other people were too. So I don't have a background in retail or e-commerce or furniture. I'm actually a recruiter by trade. And my partner, who is the co-founder of the Paws Room, comes from contract management. So we were an unlikely pair, and we still call ourselves a couple of novices.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere, right? And I think, it was really a shared love of dogs and design. Mm-hmm. That kind of was the foundation behind starting the Paws Room. And I was lucky enough at the time to be living in an architectural house that had a lot of birch plywood for the joinery, and it was COVID at the time. And I don't know if you sort of came across this story at all, but there was a brand that got quite a bit of media attention at the time called Isa King, because their business was creating flat packed stage furniture from plywood, which was used in kind of big concerts and performances and theatre. And that industry obviously totally died during COVID, and so they had pivoted to making work from home desks, and they were quick, put together, and I got one at the time, and I was like, why couldn't you have a crate that was like this, that you could quickly put together but still looked nice in your home? And what sort of came from working with the industrial designer wasn't quite as let's say it was a little bit more elaborate, and it's become the very beautiful premium teddy that we have now. But that was sort of where it all started. And so from our kind of recruitment and contract management backgrounds, we're now kind of working together across. I look at more of the marketing side and product development side for the Paws Room, and Tom is like really involved in all the operations, the logistics and inventory, and the side that doesn't excite me quite so much. But kind of how it's all.
But then we can delegate the stuff that we don't want to do and go, you can do that bit. I'll do the fun bit.
100%. Like tricky customers,
Yeah. So crate training is one thing that sometimes, and I remember way back when, when our girls were little, I remember about behavioralist coming in and she said her dog stays in a crate all day. And I'm going, oh my God, like all day. And I remember freaking out thinking, oh my God, that feels so cruel. And when she explained a bit more about crate training and why it is important and how it all works, I was like, okay, it's beginning to make sense to me now. And I think you get this picture in your mind of exactly like a cage where they're in this cage,
Yeah.
and you just think, oh, that doesn't seem like the right thing to do, right? But why do you think it creates so much debate when you talk about a crate for dogs these days?
I think it's all of those things you just mentioned. I think the aesthetic is definitely a part of it. It doesn't help us as humans to have something that absolutely looks like a cage.
Yeah.
I think the second thing is they can be associated with punishment, putting a
Yes,
dog
definitely.
away when something when they've done something perceived as being wrong or bad behaviors, which is almost the opposite of how and when you should, use a crate. But I think that's definitely
Yeah.
got a negative association. And then I think also, misuse, like keeping a dog in a crate for an extended period. And I just caveat that by saying it is appropriate for some dogs and dogs who've been trained in that way to be
Mm.
in a crate for several hours. It's not that that's always not appropriate,
Yeah.
but we generally wouldn't be saying to people, oh yeah, come and get one of our crates and then put your dog in it all day. It's definitely if that is the outcome that needs to happen for a particular reason, there's a training process
Yeah, that's
that
right.
goes through that. So
Mm.
I think, I can say my own personal experience, because I should caveat this whole conversation by saying I am not a trainer. Anything I sort of share today will come from, I guess the opportunity we've had to work with so many trainers and get, and get sort of professional advice around it. But with our own experience during COVID, we got a Shar-Pei puppy. And I can say, hand on heart, we were completely ill-informed, uneducated, and ignorant to how different a Shar-Pei was to a Cavoodle, because we had
Yes.
a Cavoodle at the time who had
Very,
been
very different.
the easiest dog in the world. And so, Paolo, our Shar-Pei, did develop some behaviour issues, and he did have a chomp on a few people, because he's very, 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 very highly strung and anxious, and so
Mm.
strangers touching him, we learned pretty quickly, wasn't a good idea.
Mhm.
And so that was when we worked with trainers who introduced crate training to us, and it was kind of like a not negotiable. This is what you're going to need to do. You need to set
Yeah.
him up for success. You need to, obviously have people safe coming into your home, and you'll find it's really positive. And my own response to it, Tanya, was like, I really don't want to do that. So
Yeah.
I think for me, if I think back to that, it was this idea of caging my dog. I'm like, oh, I want
Yeah,
my dogs to be
that's
part of
exactly
my
how it feels,
family.
doesn't it? Yeah, you feel like, "Oh my God, I'm doing something
Exactly.
bad because I'm putting them in this cage," and that's not it, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And I think the biggest shift for me was I wanted to follow the trainer's advice, even if it felt reluctant, because we loved our dog and we wanted to set him up for
Yeah.
success. The monumental shift in thinking for me was watching both my dogs, my adult Cavoodle and Paolo, the Shar-Pei, choose to go in. And I know
Yeah.
people think that's how that can't be right. That's nonsense. But I remember the trainer said to me, okay, you tell him on your mat and he'll go in and he'll stay there. And I laughed. I was like, yeah, right. And he did,
Yeah.
and at this time it was one of the wire cages, no fancy mat, and I watched the dogs over several weeks, just not always, sometimes, I can be up on the couch or in the bed or whatever,
Yeah.
but choosing to go in and that was that was the big shift for me, going, oh, okay, it's not about locking them in. It's about giving them a space that they're seeking out and finding like a little safe place.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, it's giving them their own little space, so I think of it like their own little room where that's their little, so they wanna have some quiet time and or whatever, they can go in there and that's their particular space, and I remember the behaviouralist that we work with as well saying that dogs are denning animals and
Yeah.
they actually like to be in these smaller enclosed spaces because it makes them feel comfortable and safe, and I was like, "Oh, that actually makes sense when you think about it like that," because I remember our girl Tia, we never crate trained our dogs either. And when we would have guests come with a crate, we'd go, she's scooching up inside someone else's crate, and she would get in there and get all cuddly and you'd be like, where's Tia? And she'd be in someone's crate. So we went, well, she seems to really like this. And then we thought, that's the thing. It's her way of getting out from away from everyone else and creating this own little zone. So we bought one for her, which she would use during the day. And you'd go, where is she? Oh, she's tucked up in a crate.
Right?
She
When
would
she
take
wants
herself
to.
in and out. And I
Yeah.
saw it as being more of a positive thing because I was like, okay, well, if she needs a space, like a bit like us as humans, I want to get away from my husband for an hour. I'm just going to go in another room, you know. So
We
I think
all
that's
want our
their
own
way of
room.
doing it too, isn't it? Yeah.
Right? I've heard one of the trainers, I like the way they refer to it, is a bit like a cot for a baby. You know, you don't bring your baby home and just put them on the floor. You know,
Yeah.
you put them in a cot. And similarly with a teenager, you know, if they didn't have a room with a door, they would, you know,
Yeah.
the whole family would suffer. And so it is very much, as you said, very much about just kind of giving them their own space. And you think about it, like and crates aren't for everyone, and that's totally understandable. But what I've noticed is that dogs will tend to create their own den, especially if they're feeling a bit uncertain about what's going on. So, you know, it could be visitors are coming, it could be storms. I think a lot of dogs do this in storms. They go under a table or under a couch or under a bed. They'll find something where they've got something over their heads, you know, and they'll seek it out. So I think it's just it's just kind of a more designated version of that. If they don't have one, then they'll make their own, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess we've sort of touched on it a little bit, I guess, so far, but crate training, I mean, it seems like it's actually good for dogs if it's done correctly, right? As we said, it's not supposed to be a punishment. It's supposed to be a safe place for them to go. I mean, is that your experience? Like in that, if you do it the right way, and obviously you need to train them a little bit as well, that it should be a positive experience for them, right?
100%. So I think that in our house, the way we use our crates, our dogs choose. You know, that's somewhere that they can kind of come in and out of, and the doors are generally open. They have been crate trained though, in that I think this is particularly important for vet visits, so that they are comfortable and not freaking out if they're enclosed in there. And obviously, as I mentioned before, you know, our boy with his behaviour issues, if we have visitors, he's enclosed in there, and he's actually far more relaxed and just sleeps and chills because he doesn't think he has to do anything. You know, he's not worried going, what do I do, pacing around. So I think that crate training, regardless of whether you're thinking of using it more like an enclosure or just an open sort of den space for them, is really about creating a positive association with that space. That's where I see the kind of crate training part coming in. Obviously, in early puppy days, people will use it for toileting. So, you know, then it helps kind of having them enclosed in there and they don't tend to go to the toilet in their den. And then after that, I think it's really personal choices and circumstances for families. But if they have had that training to be comfortable in an enclosed space and associate it with something good and something restful and something peaceful, if you do have those, you know, you obviously hope it's not going to happen, but if they do have to have an extended vet visit, they're not going to be extremely distressed being enclosed in a space with all those other things going on.
The other thing where it's really useful as well, particularly now that flights, there are dog-friendly flights, is getting them used to being in a crate. So when they're traveling, so whether they're traveling in the back of a car or they're traveling on a plane,
100%.
they're used to being in that enclosed pen and space, because so many dogs, especially some of those sorts of oodles and small dogs who are going on these flights, if they're not used to it, they're probably freaking out going, what the hell is this thing that you've put me in? So having crate training them well in advance of those types of things can help make that whole experience a lot better as well, right?
Just going to have that positive association. And I look, I don't know, maybe people have got a different experience of this, but I think once they're crate trained, it doesn't really seem to matter too much whether they're going from a wire crate or into one of ours or into a canvas travel crate or whatever it is. I think it's more about that association of the enclosed space, that's what you're building the positive with. And I don't know. I think the benefits of doing that, regardless of whether you choose to then use it in your home kind of longer term or whatnot, just opens up so much more I guess, ease in those situations, like vets, like traveling, like those things that are probably going to happen during the dog's life. You've created an easier pathway for that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that's quite nice as well is when you think about if you move house or you are going somewhere for an extended break, having the crate with the dog, wherever it is that you're going or moving house, is kind of like taking their sort of familiarity with them. And especially if you've got an anxious dog, I think that just creates a really, really calming experience for them when all their surroundings and smells and everything's new. They're like, oh, okay, that's my space, and you've just done that in an easy sort of portable way.
Yeah. And I think obviously when you're introducing a crate to a dog that hasn't been in one before, there's a process in terms of how long you leave them in there for and how you introduce them and all of that sort of stuff. And I guess every single dog is different, right? But is there a guide, I guess? It's like you shouldn't leave your dog in a pen for this long, or does it really matter? I guess it depends on the dog in terms of how long they actually stay in a crate for. I mean, most of our guests, when they're here overnight, they're in there all night. So they're in there for like 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
But during the day, I guess
it's pretty common, right?
Yeah.
I think that's bedtime is kind of in your crate, and that's appropriate when they're, when they're old enough to hold their bladder. I think, what trainers have recommended for puppy training can be really nice to have the crate in those early days or early weeks actually in your bedroom, so you can hear when they're getting a bit, like probably need to be taken out to the toilet. And like with children, it's a no fuss, go to the toilet, come back in your crate. And, it's going to take time, and people have to kind of stick with it. I definitely think it is. It does remind me of motherhood, right? Like, they want to be with you. They want to be cuddling you. But if you persist and you're putting them back in their cot, then they learn, and that's learned behavior. And then not particularly recommended to keep the crate in your bedroom after that. Crate more in a shared living space, because it can create separation anxiety if the dogs are with you all the time. And then when you go away, they can't, they find that stressful. So if you can work on that association of when I'm in my crate, I feel calm, and then that's not necessarily where they've got eyesight to you, that's really helpful when you're then leaving the house. And, and then you've got some, they're not sort of experiencing all of that anxiety. I think, as I sort of alluded to before, I'm probably not a huge advocate of dogs going in the crate all day, but I do know that there are certain working breeds and dogs where that is appropriate. But I just think the right training needs to be done. So it's gradual introduction and working up to that. And I'd probably recommend anyone who's thinking they need that for whatever reason works with a trainer to do that in the right way.
Yeah, that's right.
I think overnight and then a few hours at a time during the day. In fact, the trainers definitely recommend that you do have crate time during the day, and that is sort of again, like the children, that's sort of an enforced nap time, because that helps them with routines and regulation and all of those positive good things. So I think you touched on this before, that early introduction part is important, not just getting, whether it's a puppy or an adult dog, just not just getting them, putting them in, closing the door and walking away. It's probably not going to set them up for a good association with the crate. Lots of kind of open door time is what we recommend.
That's just going to stress them out. And let's talk about the puppy side of it. It is about creating that safe space, and you can't just bring a crate home, bring puppy home, chuck it in there and just think this little puppy's going to be like, hey, yeah, this is fine and I'm totally cool. It's hang on a minute. The poor little thing, you've got to introduce it to the crate, let it go in and out. People talk about having food, like food in there and their nice blankets.
That's what we do. Feed
all
them
that
in there,
stuff, make it positive.
All their meals in there, treats in there, lick mats in there, enrichment, good things happen in my crate. That's kind of what you want the association to be, and then that builds over time.
So, because how does it help with toilet training? So it's obviously they're in there. If they're in there overnight, typically they don't want to wee where they're sleeping, right?
100%.
So that's why they sort of hold on, and it helps them, with their bladder control and stuff like that. Yeah.
And that's why they also say not to have the crate too big. I think it's another human trait of ours that we think, oh, we would want something quite
more room, bigger,
spacious
better.
and we want room. Yeah, that's right. Whereas for them, it's actually more about a cozy spot. But when it comes to the toilet training side, what you find is if the crate's too big, then they're like, okay, here's my cozy spot in this corner,
here's my
and I'll
toilet
just
spot.
go pee in the other corner. Yeah, that's exactly right. So you kind of want to make sure that it's sized for the time of life. With the pup or the adult dog.
Yeah, okay. So let's talk about, I suppose, some of the steps. So, I know we can't, talk in a huge amount of detail because we've only got a certain amount of time, but let's talk at what's a quick summary of the steps that we can take. So if we've got a dog or a puppy who hasn't used a crate before, where should we start? What are the first sort of things and steps we can do to get them used to being in a crate?
So again, not a trainer, but from my experience and what I hear, I think that making it somewhere that they want to go feels like a little bit of a no-brainer, right? So I think having a comfy mat inside and having, if it's a puppy and they're coming home, anything you can have in there that maybe smells like mum can be a good, a little bit of blanket or fabric or whatnot can be a good start. And introducing definitely with doors open. So it's using, whether it's a, whatever kind of crate it is, seeing if you can get treats into the crate that in a way that they're going to go in, and then a yes or whatever your reward word is when they go in. If they sit down, mother load of treats. It's like, okay, these are all that I'm getting rewarded for coming in this place. This is amazing. I like it in here and I'm getting rewarded. And that is a gradual, kind of process. When they're going in and sitting down, then close the door just for a short period of time. Again, treats if there's no barking or whining. They always recommend don't let them out when they're whining. Wait till they're quiet and calm.
Because then they'll learn that when they sook, they get let out.
That's exactly right. So resist the urge, even though it's very tempting. So kind of just wait till they're quiet and then let them out. But that's short periods, like short, kind of we're talking a few minutes at a time, and then you gradually, and then opening the door, letting them come in and out, kind of repeating that process slightly longer periods of time. And then you're going to move to closing the door, walking away, but coming back quite soon after. So they're like, okay, she does come back or he does come back, and so then that is just your gradual process. And I'm talking, you can do that over a couple of days. It's not, if you're kind of dedicated to doing it and getting it done, it's not like it has to take weeks, but it is just not about, as we said before, putting them in, closing the door and walking away.
They've got to get used to it,
They've got to get used to it. And I don't think it's a completely dissimilar process for a puppy or an adult dog, to be honest. I think, an adult dog probably is more likely to have an aversion to it if they've never had that kind of experience of being closed in before. A puppy's probably a little bit newer, and a lot of breeders now are using crates in their early puppy days anyway. But I think an adult dog who's never been crated, which was our experience with both our dogs, a little bit more choice and reward and taking a bit of time to close them in is probably.
I think some dogs are just that nature where they want more quiet time than others, or they're just like they are that different. Like I said with Tia, she just took herself into this crate one day and we were like, okay. So we were like, well, that's if she wants to do that, then that's fine. But the other two dogs never did. But it's and we get some here as well that aren't crated, like they're not crated at home. And then sometimes you'll go, where are they? And they'll be curled up in the back of one of the crates, and you go, okay, they just send some down. So we just leave it open. They can come and go as they want to. So if they feel like they need to get away and have a little nap away from everyone else, then they can go and they can do that. So again, 100%. I think it is because we don't use it as a negative thing. It's hey, it's there if you need to have that little extra space and quiet time, then it's a good thing for them.
That's exactly right. And I know, some of the trainers have said to us, and I'm terrible at this, by the way, Tanya, like what I'm about to say is not something I feel like I should do it and I would like to do it, but I'm just not quite disciplined enough. But that creating the routines, I think your most confident dogs know their routine and what kind of happens. And so if if it works for the family to crate the dogs at night, and yes, but potentially closed crate at night,
Yeah.
and then some crate time during the day, and that is just consistently what happens. Your dog is getting that rest, they're getting their retreat, they know this is the way it works. And from what I understand is that it can have a really good positive psychological effect for dogs' confidence and ability to cope with separation anxiety and things like that. So as I said, I'm not great at it. Our dogs are more crate by choice.
Yeah.
But it can
But
be a
every
good way
dog's
to
different,
go.
as you said. Like some just
Every
they
different,
want
right?
that space and they love having their
Yeah.
little time, in there, and others are just like, nah, too much going on. I just want to go and
It's
play.
too
But
fun.
as that
Yeah.
rest part is so important for their day and their routine. I think people forget that, and we make sure with our daycare guests that we have regular rests during the day.
Yeah.
And usually when I put on the lullabies and they all start to
That's
go,
cute.
oh, and they all start, one drops off and then they drop like flies. It's like nap time.
Oh, that's beautiful. And
But
they
it's
probably do
important
need
that they have that.
those signals, right? That say this is it.
Yeah.
It's now time to relax. Like especially, so we've got another dog now who's half Aussie Shepherd, half Border Collie. So she's like two working breeds in one, and we certainly don't live a farm life. And so she's like obsessed. I think actually addicted to her ball.
Yeah.
And if it's unless it is taken out of sight, and she's like at times it will take a bit of crate time. She can't wind down. She can't, she's just wired to go, come on, let's go play. So I think for dogs like that, it's super beneficial having that, the routine.
Forced downtime. Yeah.
Exactly right. Because they just don't know to do it,
Yeah, that's right. Because, some dogs aren't so good at self-regulating as others. A bit like people, really.
Us humans, yeah, that's right. I think we might be a bit the same. They do say, don't they, that your dogs, sort of reflect you in some way.
That's
So, could be something in that.
Scary.
I say that my dogs have reflected different stages of my life. So my first dog was a cavoodle. And, she was, I won't go into what was going on for me at the time, but, she was pretty easygoing and lovely. And then COVID hit and I got my Shar Pei, and we've talked about him. He was not, was not easygoing, and he's like, he's a bit tough. And now I've got my crazy girl. So anyway, I don't know what that says about me, but.
Is there a best place in the house to put a crate? Because obviously, and maybe that changes over their life as well. So where we put it when they're puppies, where they, as they're getting older, do we move it? Like, is there a best spot to put it, or how do we figure that part out?
So I think, again, it depends on puppy or adult dog, and potentially depends on what they're used to. If it's an adult dog, what they've been used to before you're introducing a crate. I think for puppy days, best recommendation is, if you can, to have it in the same room you're sleeping in, if you're doing enclosed crate training at night, just so that you can take them out to go to the toilet, because that's probably going to take a little while, and you don't
because their little bladders can't hold on for too long.
That's right. It's not gonna work. So that's probably important. But after that, I think we were touching on this before. After that, having in somewhere like a living room or a spare room, or somewhere where it's there's a bit of separation from you, just to help them build that independence, is what's generally recommended. And do you know what I love about that is when they are having their daytime in the crate, it's enabled a way for them to still stay connected with the family but rest. So I
can still see you around and you're there, but
yeah, that's right. So if I'm cooking in the kitchen and we've got an open plan sort of kitchen living area, and the dogs can get a bit incessant and kind of, I want to come in and see what's going on, and there's food and it's all exciting, using the crates for them at that time I find really useful. But I'm not putting them away. They're not being sent, they can still see, they've got the smells, they've got the noises, but they're chill, they just lie down. And it's a nice way for, I think that's the way we think about our crates quite a lot, is that they're enabling connection. Because instead of a wire crate that you go, oh, I'm going to go and put that in the laundry because it's ugly, we've that was what we really wanted, a design aesthetic that still kept connection for the dogs with your family by something that just feels like it fits a bit better in your home. So I think if it works for families to have them in their bedroom, I think that's totally fine as well. But it probably is just a bit more of that, potentially not helping them with building their independence.
Yeah, and that makes total sense as well. So what are some good ways to make a crate feels safe and calming? And we've probably touched on a couple already, but like when we're introducing them and so forth, how can we do it in a really positive way for them so it does feel like that safe spot for them?
I think probably in addition to the things we've already said around the food and treats is probably being in the same space, kind of
Mhm.
touching on that. So, not meaning I'm in my crate, I'm immediately left on my own,
Yeah.
so having crate time be, and then sitting around in the same living room and talking to each other or watching telly in that same,
Yeah.
space. I think that can really help with building positive associations with the crate too, because I think we do things. No, I know I have as a dog parent many times. We accidentally train them, as
Mm.
in we, create an association with something unintentionally. And so if it becomes, I go in my crate and then everybody leaves me every time,
Yeah.
that's not necessarily building a positive association. So I think
Yeah.
that's important. And positioning as well. So, making sure that the crate's not somewhere where it's getting, Western sun hitting it hard and, it
Yeah.
becomes really hot and uncomfortable. So somewhere that, I
A bit
don't
of
have a
common sense,
strong
really. I mean, you think
feeling.
about it, it really should just be common sense, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I was going to say, I mean, in terms of sort of covering it, I think that's very dog dependent. We were talking
Yeah.
before about some dogs finding it hard to wind down. I have heard that there are some dogs, if they've got too much visibility in the crate, they still can't settle,
Yeah.
and so that's probably a dog by dog situation. We haven't experienced that personally, but I know that can
Yeah.
be a thing. So I think that's just something for people to be aware of,
Yeah,
that
we have some dogs
dogs
here
may
that they
need a
say, "No, they go in
cozier.
the crate and we've got the cover that goes over and that keeps them
Yeah.
quiet and calm." So we're like, "Okay, if that's what they need, that's what
If
they'll
that's what
get."
that's
Yeah.
it, that's it. So I think it's some of it's probably, specific to the
Yeah.
family situation and the dog. One thing I would say, is with kids is that, um, making sure kids know if the dog's in their crate, that's their time, right?
Yeah.
That's their space, and they're choosing to go in there, or we're putting them in there so they can have their rest.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for the safety of the children as well, because you never know
Yeah.
how dogs may react with some guarding if they're kind of coming into that space, but also just to genuinely give the dogs that time to
Yeah.
recover and and rest. So I think all of those kind of little things help to just create that positive association.
Yeah. Good tips there. Now, if anyone hasn't seen your crates, they need to get onto the pause room and have a look because they are very different. And again, I think for me, it's that mental image. I hate the sort of wire cage sort of
Yeah.
look and stuff as well. So, why are your crates, I guess, better or they're different? But like, why would you suggest that people get one of the crates that you guys have? And let's, I guess, because this is a podcast and we don't have visuals, they are made out of beautiful timber and they've got,
Yeah.
beautiful doors made out of like perspex and stuff that just makes it really luxe and pretty. Like, why are they different to other things that are on the market?
So I think the most obvious kind of visual, answer to that is that they look like furniture, like
Yeah,
you were referencing before. So that was very much the design intent, that they could fit in as a table. So you could have
yeah,
that dual function, whether it's a bedside table or a side table beside your couch, or for some of the XL bigger dogs, at least it can be like a somewhere you can still put stuff, and because you think about those
yeah.
XL wire crates, it takes up a huge
Yeah, they're
amount
big.
of space,
Yeah,
and you can't
they're big and
use
they're ugly.
all of it for anything. That's right. They're not just ugly, like they really do take up a
Yeah,
lot of space. And so that was very much the whole sort of, I guess, intent at the beginning, was to say it's a, it's form and function are equally important for for the design of the crate. And then I guess we've put a lot of thought and our own experience and other dog parent experience. We've learned a lot along the way. There's been many tweaks to the design of our signature teddy crate, but things like the obvious one at the beginning was chewing. Not a problem you
mhm,
have with a wire crate so much, but
yeah,
we've created kind of well ventilated but acrylic solutions that stop, potential chewing on the sides. We focused a lot on visibility. So I suppose the opposite of what we were saying before, where some dogs need, it to feel very covered and enclosed. Ours is a lot, we're Queenslanders, so ours is a lot about ventilation and visibility. So making
But they can always be covered as well if a dog needs that. You can go, we can put a cover over it if we need to do that. Yeah.
And some people do that at night, we'll do that then. Ventilation and visibility has been a really, really big part of the design aesthetic. And then we've, I guess, over time, understanding what people are looking for the comfort of their dogs and what works, we've sort of then built out a system. So there are optional bits like wheels. People want to move it from the bedroom to the lounge room easily without having to pick it up because it is plastic.
Wheels is handy because you can just wheel it around because some of those things are heavy, especially if it's big, trying to move them around.
It's like 45 kilos because it's solid birch plywood, right? So they're very heavy. The small ones are okay. They're so a Cavoodle's one would be maybe 22 kilos, but still it's a lot for a single person to be picking up. So the wheels make that a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then, the mat, we do an orthopedic mat with 2 covers that are removable, washable, waterproof liner, all those things you learn along the way that you're like, oh, I wish it had, when you buy something. And so then when you're creating it yourself, you can solve all your, you can solve all your own problems. And then we partner with a few different companies to build out kind of some of the things that we think work really well with a crate. So things like Enrichment Toys is a beautiful brand they're in Singapore actually, called Lenoji, and they make very aesthetically aligned enrichment lick mats and pup cups, and so they look nice in our crates. They're really well considered from a design perspective. So we have those partnerships that then we kind of think those products align quite nicely with a wee spray or whatever. So it's I think to answer your question is we've considered the whole crate experience.
Yeah,
so
not
it's
just
not
one
just
product, but the whole
crate.
suite of what's going to complement the actual crate as well.
Exactly.
Which is not typical because typically you're buying the crate over here and you might get a mat for it and you might get a cover from somewhere else, and it's all bits and bobs from the,
And you're like, will it fit? Will it work?
Yeah, that's right.
Will it look good? All of those things. So that's probably the difference is we think about it like an experience.
Yeah, which I love. I think that's really cute. So we might finish with a bit of a fun question.
All right.
So if Oodles could design their dream crate setup, what do you think would definitely be inside it?
Oh, that is a great question. Chicken.
Chicken treats,
Chicken treats would definitely be inside the crate, like every time they come in, right? Like just almost like an endless supply. Visibility to their they want to see their owners. So that would definitely be important to them. So my girl was a real, this might be a bit gross, but she was a real doona licker.
Oh, yes. Well, they say that can be an anxiety thing when they're licking stuff. It helps soothe them. Yeah.
So definitely something to lick, whether it's a lick mat or it's, like just something in there, that kind of something for that sort of self-soothing.
Yeah.
And look, if it was my girl, the crate would have given her easy access to kind of come in and out. I think that would have been pretty important to to her. And super comfy, cozy, definitely. Comfy mattress, coat. Like she really likes that kind of chenille type, like something that feels really soft. Cozy.
Fuck us. We want something comfortable and cozy on our beds too. When you're curled up, you just want to
100%.
snuggle
I mean, the
in.
only part of this I don't want is the chicken and the lick mat. I mean, all the rest of it. Actually, chicken in bed could be all right, I suppose. basically, I think that's actually the best way to summarize it is I think a cavoodle would want in their crate and their crate experience to be everything we would want in a beautiful, like, luxe hotel. That would be the ideal experience.
Well, we are servants pretty much to them, aren't we? So they get that as well.
I do think a lot of cavoodles have got a little bit of the, a little bit of the princess vibe. So they need the kind of things in life, right?
Oh, totally. I totally relate to that one. Thank you so much, Eliza, for your time. I think crate training is such a big topic, and it's one that's relevant to like everybody, because it's either, are we crate training them? Are we not crate training them? If we are, how do we do it? Like, where do we start? What do we buy? It's all that sort of stuff, because I think, it can be overwhelming when you're starting out, if you're not used to having a dog, or you're just getting a puppy and you're trying to, figure it all out. And that's Lily, who just has to be involved in the podcast. Of course,
she had a few thoughts on what makes a good crate. I think.
Yes, she's saying, "Well, this is what I think." Do you want chicken? I think she wants chicken.
Oh, that's probably
it. She's a sassy little girl. We love Lily. But yes, so thank you very much for being part of the podcast. I know that anyone listening will get lots of great tips and tricks from it. So we'll put all the links to you guys in the show notes so people can find you and take a look. But thank you for your time. I know that you're busy and appreciate you sharing your insights.
Thank you so much for having me, Tanya. It's been fun.
Great, thanks.
Bye.
Would you like to know more about the services we provide here at 3 Spoilt Dogs? Now visit our website, 3 is in the number 3, spoiltdogs.com.au. Also, send me an email if you've got any questions or to request specific topics in future episodes. If you'd like to become a collaborative partner, or just to tell me how much you love the podcast, I would love to hear from you.